Welcome to the 11th Annual Values Aligned Leadership Summit. Why VALS? If you recall, about 13 years ago at the turn of the century, several giants of industry were at the top of their games. But within 2 years, we witnessed those very same organizations melt down from self-inflicted wounds as a result of massive ethical failures. Reaction was swift. The media jumped all over it. Business is bad. Business is inherently bad. The government moved in with regulations like Sarbanes-Oxley, and government officials self-appointed themselves to start running our business enterprises. Millions was spent studying on how to infuse ethical behavior into organizations and how to teach business ethics in our colleges and universities. Experts studied the great philosophers in search of ethical foundations. Business schools across the country added required business ethics courses to their curriculum. In the meantime, at CCU, we just referred back to the scriptures in the Old and New Testaments. The Old Testament guided the Jews for millennia, and the New Testament has been guiding Christians for a couple thousand years. You see, we didn't have to go and search for the truth. We just relied on good old-fashioned Judeo-Christian ethic. But what we did do is add a yearly business ethics conference as the capstone to our study of ethics. Dr. Chuck King, our former dean, who you will meet in just a few minutes, gathered together a small group of business leaders, and they came up with this idea, and they called the conference the Values Aligned Leadership Summit, otherwise known as VALS. The idea was simple. Leaders lead from their core values. If you have lousy values, you're going to be a lousy leader. Well, we get our core values in our school straight from Scripture. Our motto in the School of Business and Leadership is simple. The pioneering witness for Christ in the workplace is competence. Nobody cares who your Lord and Savior is if you're not doing the job we hired you to do in the first place. You earn your right to be heard. We have a unique model in our School of Business in that we do not see our students as our customers. We see their future employers as our customers. We see our students as our clients, and we view ourselves as their personal trainers. So we make them work out by reading books, taking tests, writing papers, making presentations. We never accept late work from our students. Their boss won't, so we won't. We dress for success. On Wednesdays, it's business casual. On Thursdays, it's business formal on campus. We expect a lot from our students, and they deliver. Our graduates are in demand. The VALS model focused on bringing together the leaders of tomorrow with the leaders of today. That's why we have students at every table in this room. That's why we have executives at every table in this room. We want the leaders of today to speak into the lives of the young men and women who are our students. Will the students please stand? Ladies and gentlemen, these are the leaders of tomorrow. You may be seated. It's now in our best interest to invest in these young men and women, because someday when we're in the nursing home, they're going to be in charge. Will the faculty please stand? If you teach part-time or full-time in the School of Business and Leadership, please stand. Good deal. You may be seated. As you can see, we're outnumbered. That's why we need everyday leaders like you folks to share the real world with our students. So we ask that you be intentional this day in discussing business ethics with our students. We're going to have several opportunities throughout the day for you to do that. But for now, On to our main topic, economic freedom. Salt and light in a dark world. Folks, there's a war going on in this world, and it's a war between freedom and control, as Bill just mentioned. In our country, the war isn't between the haves and the have-nots. It's between the makers and the takers. It's between the folks who create wealth and prosperity, like you all, and those who want to redistribute wealth and prosperity. Now, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that these interventionists, as I call them, those that believe that central control works, they are controlling the message. They control the press, they control the media, and they control the curriculum in our schools. Well, what's being taught? A few moments ago, we recited the Pledge of Allegiance. We used to do that every day in school as I was growing up. Our children don't do that anymore for fear of offending someone. We've removed the 10 Commandments from our public institutions and God from our schools. We've replaced those with moral relativism. There's no clear right or wrong. Yet at the same time, our schools are indoctrinating our students and teaching that traditional lifestyle is bad, alternative lifestyle is good. Liberty is bad, government control is good. Capitalism is bad, big government is good. Big business is really bad. Big government is good. Wealth is bad. Redistribution is good. Individual enterprise is bad. Central planning is good. The bad news is freedom is being assaulted from every direction. And if you think it's bad in the schools, step onto our college and university campuses. But not at Colorado Christian University. We take a different approach. We teach the truth. The good news is that those who believe in human freedom own the high ground. We have the truth on our side. Central planning and control has never worked. Check the history books. It's never worked. What works? Freedom works. Freedom remains the life-giving salt of humankind. Now look at this photo with me real quick. This is a space photo from NASA of the Earth at night, and you can see the twinkling lights. Most of the Earth is dark, and that's water. But some of the dark areas are due to geographic barriers, things like mountains, deserts, Arctic tundra, where you don't see a lot of lights. But let's zoom in for a closer look. This is the Korean Peninsula. To the east is Japan. To the west and far north is China. Notice how the lights stop right in the middle of the Korean Peninsula. That is not because of a geographic barrier. It's a man-made barrier. You see, South Korea is open and free. To paraphrase Winston Churchill, South Korea enjoys the inherent vice of capitalism, the unequal sharing of blessings, while centrally planned and controlled North Korea lives with the inherent virtue of socialism, the equal sharing of miseries. Ladies and gentlemen, freedom is the salt and light in our world. Central planning has never worked. A few years back, I took a group of students to Eastern Europe on a mission trip, and early on in our trip, we were in an area of Poland, a former coal mining area, and we saw these huge apartment complexes. They were everywhere you turned. And they were all the same. Big apartment complexes with small, little bitty apartments called flats. And we visited some folks in one of these apartment complexes, and we walked in and we got in the elevator, and we first noticed that the elevator had buttons only for the odd-numbered floors. There were no buttons for the even-numbered floors. You see, some central planner had decided it was more efficient for the elevator not to be able to stop at every floor. So it only stopped at the odd-numbered floors. If you lived on an even-number floor, you either walked up a flight of stairs to get to the elevator or walked down. Now, what was really interesting was when you got in the elevator, normal-size elevator, in the back wall there was a door with a doorknob in it. And so I, being curious, walked forward, turned the knob, opened the door, and there was another half of the elevator behind that door. Literally the same amount as in the front. And I asked our translator, I don't understand, why is there a wall separating the elevator car with a door in it? And she looked at me and she said, so we can fit more people in the elevator. Some central planner had decided it would be best to put a wall in the middle of the elevator, right? It was amazing. So I began to keep an eye out for some strange examples of the vestiges of communism. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed my time visiting with the folks there, and it's interesting to see their culture. It's bifurcated by age. People under a certain age all speak English. They all dress in Western clothing and so forth. They all believe in freedom and so on. Those were the ones bought after the freedom of the Eastern European countries. The ones who are older all speak the native tongue, dress in dour clothing and things like that. It was fascinating. Anyway, here are some examples of some vestiges of communism that I saw. Again, central planning doesn't work. You suppose this would work in the free market? You suppose the free market would embrace the quality? You have to ask, what? I don't know about you, but I'm not going to relax on that porch. No, the light pole goes here. Figure it out. I don't think I have to say a word. This is not going to work in a free society. Now, to be fair, this is in America. This is in one of our airports, okay? And if you look real close on that thing, that TV has been there for a long period of time. The camera was recently installed, and on the other side of that camera, it basically says installed by the Transportation Safety Administration. Central planning, right? I rest my case. Central planning has never worked. So what about free enterprise versus central planning? In 1908, when the transportation industry was dominated by horse and buggy, steam locomotives, giant steamships, Henry Ford brought us the mass-produced automobile, or the light bulb. Oh, sorry. This was Thomas Edison. Brought us the light bulb, yeah. When Britain, the government in Britain, was trying to regulate whale oil around the world, which was used for lamps, right? But a free marketeer here in the United States, Thomas Edison, invented the light bulb, okay? Over a century later, the United States government says that we must use compact fluorescent light bulbs. I don't know about you, but I prefer the warm light from the old incandescent lamp. Thankfully, the U.S. government has also provided us with a 7-page manual on how to dispose of the CFLs. Now on to Henry Ford. In 1908, Henry Ford brought us the mass-produced automobile, and the free market approved. Now, Ford was not perfect, but the markets are. Later, they also brought us the Edsel. The Edsel look is here to stay, and 1959 cars will prove it. Well, the market disagreed, and the Edsel faded into history, as it should in a free market economy. In 1964, Lee Iacocca, working for Ford, brought us the Mustang, and the free market approved. In 2011, GM, Government Motors, brought us the Chevy Volt. 1965, Yale University undergraduate named Fred Smith wrote a term paper about the passenger route systems used by most air freight shippers. He viewed those as economically inadequate. Smith wrote of the need for shippers to have a system designed specifically for air freight that would improve things. It was rejected by his business professor as implausible. In 1973, Fred Smith brought us Federal Express. Of course, the central planners in the United States government bring us the U.S. Postal Service. By the way, with FedEx and UPS, we can track any package anywhere around the world from our laptops, right? Yet the federal government has no idea where 12 million undocumented aliens are. Central planning doesn't work. And finally, in the 1980s, the government regulated telephone industry, had us tethered to the wall with rotary dial phones. Students, you can ask your executives about the rotary dial phone later. You could have any color you want as long as it was black or beige. Of course, in 2007, Steve Jobs brought us the iPhone. More about Mr. Jobs and the iPhone later on this morning. There are countless examples of how free enterprise entrepreneurs have outperformed central planners. Free market capitalism offers wide ownership of property, fair and equal rules for all, strict adherence to the rules of ownership, opportunities for charity, and the wisest use of our limited resources. Everywhere free enterprise has really been tried, it's meant creativity, growth, abundance, and most of all, the economic application of the principle that every human being has dignity and should have that dignity respected. Free market capitalism, rightly understood and pursued, has lifted untold millions out of abject poverty and allowed them to use skills and talents they would have never discovered, and to build opportunities that their grandparents never dreamed was possible. As Bob Sirico says, the free economy is a dream worthy of our spiritual imaginations. In 2008, then Senator Obama said to Joe the plumber, "I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody." Well, Mr. President, on behalf of everybody in this room, don't spread our wealth around, spread our work ethic around. In 2012, President Obama said, "If you've got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen." Well, I've got news for you, Mr. President. There's 800 people in this room who disagree with you. You did build that. Our goal today is to equip each one of you with the knowledge and arguments to not only defend free enterprise, but to aggressively promote it as the moral solution to society's issues.